Asterisk, I never imagined I'd just sit back and watch. But that night, I didn't lift a finger, not when she leaned too close, not when she smiled too sweetly, not even when her hand brushed his. I just watched. Asterisk, my name is Claire Evans. I've been married to Jason for 7 years, and for most of them, I believed we were safe, solid, the kind of couple others admired quietly, enviously. But security is fragile, and suspicion doesn't need a loud reason to creep in. It just seeps in through the cracks of silence and routine. Asterisk, it started small. Asterisk, Jason began staying late at work. Nothing drastic, an extra hour here, a missed dinner there. He said his new client was demanding. I believed him. At first, asterisk, then came Megan Carter. Asterisk, she was radiant in a way that drew attention, but pretended not to want it. Newly divorced, freshly confident, we had been friends, well, more like social acquaintances who smiled in group photos and exchanged Instagram likes. I never saw her as a threat. Until she began showing up more often. Asterisk, she'd pop by just to chat, but her eyes rarely lingered on me. They were always chasing Jason. Asterisk, it was the little things, how she'd toss her hair and touch his arm when she left. How she'd compliment his taste in wine, or his wristwatch, or his stories. She'd giggle like a teenager and ask him to open jars she probably could have opened herself. Asterisk, at first, I dismissed it. I told myself I was being dramatic, that I was jealous, even. But then one day, I caught the way her eyes followed him across the room, hungry, possessive, calculating. It wasn't innocent. Asterisk, and Jason. He didn't flirt back, not openly, but he didn't shut it down either. He'd chuckle, smile, shift in his seat, but never leave the table. Asterisk, the tipping point came on a Saturday afternoon. We were supposed to be heading out for brunch, but Jason was scrolling through his phone, distracted, when I glanced at the screen. A preview of a text popped up. Asterisk, Megan, you're too sweet. Can't wait to see you later. Asterisk, he locked the phone instantly. Asterisk, I said nothing. Just stared at him as he fumbled for an excuse. It's nothing. She's just thanking me for helping her with her car battery last week. Asterisk, right. Asterisk, I called Ashley that night, my best friend since college, and someone who always fought through the noise. Asterisk, she wants him. Claire, you're not paranoid, and if you let this go on, she'd take her chance. Ashley said, her voice tight. Asterisk, but Jason wouldn't. Asterisk, maybe not. But do you want to wait and find out after the damage is done? Asterisk, the idea of confrontation made my stomach twist. I wasn't built for screaming matches or emotional breakdowns. But I needed the truth. Asterisk, so I made a plan. Asterisk, the next day, I invited Megan over for dinner. I texted her casually, like it was my idea to reconnect. She responded in seconds. Asterisk, sounds fun. Should I bring wine? Asterisk, I told Jason the plan that evening. He hesitated, just long enough for me to notice. Asterisk, oh, sure, Megan's always a good time, he said, forcing a chuckle. Asterisk, I smiled politely. That's what I thought. Asterisk, I didn't tell him what I was really doing. That I would be watching every glance, every movement, every pause. I wouldn't accuse, I wouldn't yell. I would just observe. Asterisk, in the days leading up to the dinner, I rehearsed every possible outcome in my head. Maybe I'd catch nothing. Maybe I was wrong, and Megan was just a flirty friend who needed boundaries. Or maybe I'd see exactly what I feared. Asterisk, the night arrived. Asterisk, I wore something simple but elegant, a soft navy dress, no heels, hair up. Understated power. I made a full spread, roasted chicken with rosemary, lemon couscous, and red wine from a bottle Megan once said she loved. Asterisk, she arrived right on time, wearing a black dress that left little to the imagination and a smile that said she already thought she'd won. Her perfume hit me before her voice did, expensive and overwhelming. Asterisk, Jason answered the door. Asterisk, I stood at the kitchen counter, drying my hands, watching them hug a little too long. Megan's hand rested on his chest as she pulled away. Claire. You look stunning, she said brightly, sauntering in like she owned the space. I returned her smile. So do you. Black really brings out your confidence. She blinked, a flicker of recognition crossing her face. She knew what I meant. I knew she knew. Dinner was pleasant, on the surface. We laughed, sipped wine, exchanged stories about the past. But every laugh Megan gave to Jason felt like a test, and every silence between them felt too loaded. At one point, she leaned across the table to refill Jason's glass even though it was still half full. Ashley texted me mid-meal. How's your little experiment going? I didn't respond. I just looked up and watched Megan tuck a loose curl behind her ear as she asked Jason about his gym routine. He's been working out more lately, she said, smiling. You look great, Jason. I raised an eyebrow. He always looks great, even in sweatpants. Megan didn't flinch. She just sipped her wine and smiled. After dessert, Megan suggested we move to the living room and play a game, something fun and light, she said. Jason looked at me, waiting for my nod. I gave it. Megan chose truth or sip. She started. Innocently questions about guilty pleasures, childhood crush, embarrassing stories. But it escalated quickly. Jason, she purred, swirling her wine. Have you ever been tempted? You know, even while being married. He looked stunned, caught off guard. His eyes darted to me. I just smiled, curious. He took a sip. The silence that followed felt heavy. Megan's eyes sparkled. I stood up, smoothed my dress. I'll get more wine. In the kitchen. I didn't grab the bottle. I stood just around the corner, hidden by the wall, and listened. Megan's voice lowered. You're such a good guy, Jason. Loyal. That's rare and honestly pretty hot. A pause. You ever wonder if maybe you settled too early? Another pause. I stepped back into the room before he could answer. Refill. I asked casually, holding the bottle. Jason jumped slightly. Megan's smile twitched. As I poured, I met her gaze. For the first time all night, she looked uncertain. And that's when I knew I had seen enough. There's a quiet kind of violence in watching someone tiptoe along the edge of betrayal, unsure whether they'll leap, fall, or pull back. That night, I didn't raise my voice, didn't cause a scene. I just watched. And waited. Megan returned just 3 nights after our last dinner. Another invite, another friendly visit. This time, I invited her alone. No pretense of hosting a group. Just the 3 of us. A casual evening, or so she thought. I had already set the stage. The lighting low, music soft, candles flickering just enough to cast shadows. Subtle intimacy, not seductive, but not sterile. I wanted her to feel comfortable, confident. Let her think the door was already half open. Jason was unusually quiet as I plated the hors d'oeuvres. He stood in the kitchen, eyes on his phone, fingers drumming against the counter. I didn't ask what he was thinking. I already knew. When the doorbell rang, he moved faster than usual to answer it. Megan stepped in wearing a form-fitting maroon dress, satin, sleeveless, and just barely appropriate. Her heels clicked sharply against the floor as she walked in with a bottle of wine and a practiced smile. Hope I'm not too early, she said, her eyes flicking toward Jason. Right on time, I replied, stepping forward to take the wine from her. We were just getting started. I caught Jason glancing at her as she turned. His gaze lingered longer than it should have, and when he noticed me watching, he looked away. Megan noticed too. She was watching everything. Dinner flowed easily, too easily. Megan was in full performance mode, laughing too loudly, complimenting Jason's stories, brushing invisible lint off his sleeve like they'd been lovers in another life. Jason tried to maintain polite distance, but it was clear he didn't know how to navigate her anymore. He smiled awkwardly, drank more than usual, and laughed nervously every time she made a double entendre. Remember when we used to crash those beach bonfires back in college? Megan said, swirling her wine. Jason was always the hot one. Everyone knew it. Jason chuckled uncomfortably. That was a long time ago. But some things don't change, she added, her voice low, her eyes locked on his. I looked down at my plate and smiled. The pieces were moving exactly as I expected. After dinner, Megan suggested a movie, something light. She said, something romantic. I didn't argue. I let them choose. I just cleared the dishes and took my time in the kitchen. When I returned, they were already on the couch. Megan had claimed the middle seat, pressed between us like a wedge. Her legs crossed elegantly, her arm draped along the backrest behind Jason, a casual touch. Meant to be nothing, meant to be everything. I sat beside her, folding my hands in my lap. She didn't move. As the opening credits rolled, Megan leaned toward Jason and whispered something I couldn't hear. He smiled weakly, eyes still on the screen. Then she shifted, resting her head lightly on his shoulder. I watched him freeze, just for a second. Then, slowly, he moved. Not a dramatic recoil, just enough to adjust, to put space between them. But not enough to make a statement. Megan straightened up a minute later, unbothered. She was testing boundaries. And he was failing to draw them clearly. Halfway through the movie, I stood up. I'll be right back, I said. Neither of them looked at me. Megan had her legs tucked underneath her now, body angled toward Jason, as if I weren't even in the room. I walked down the hall slowly, then paused just out of sight. I wasn't spying, not really. I was collecting proof for myself. From the hallway, their voices were faint but audible. You smell amazing, Megan said softly. I forgot how good you always smelled. Jason didn't respond immediately. You've changed, Jason, she continued, in a good way, more masculine. More confident. His voice was a whisper. Megan? Don't. She laughed, low and throaty. Why? She doesn't see it anymore. I do. That's when I stepped back into the room. They both jerked slightly. Jason sat up straighter. Megan gave me a sugar-coated smile. We were just reminiscing. Sounds fun, I said coolly, sitting back down beside her. The rest of the movie played like background noise. Megan stayed quiet, but I could feel her seething. She'd made her move, and Jason hadn't taken the bait, but he hadn't exactly slammed the door either. After the credits rolled, I stood. Long day. I think I'll call it a night. Jason blinked. Already. Megan turned to me. I could help clean up. No need, I said, cutting her off with a smile. You should get going anyway. It's getting late. There was a pause. Jason didn't say anything. Megan hesitated. Yeah, sure. Of course. She stood, smoothed her dress, and gave Jason a lingering look. Thanks for the wine. And the memories. He nodded stiffly. Good night, Megan. I watched her leave, her shoulders stiff, her heels striking the floor with a new kind of tension. When the door closed, I turned to Jason. He looked at me, searching for something, relief, guilt, maybe even fear. I said nothing. Just walked past him, up the stairs, and into our bedroom. He followed a minute later. Claire, he started. About tonight. I held up a hand. I don't want to talk about it. Not yet. He nodded slowly. Okay. Double quotes. We got ready for bed in silence. No kisses. No small talk. No shared smiles. Just to people brushing their teeth in a room that felt colder than it had an hour ago. Asterisk when we slipped under the covers. I turned away from him, my body still. My mind racing. Asterisk I had seen enough. Asterisk, but I still didn't know everything. Asterisk because betrayal isn't always loud. It doesn't always come with lipstick stains or text messages at midnight. Sometimes it comes in glances, in hesitations. In the quiet spaces where truth hides. Asterisk I wasn't ready to confront him. Not yet, but I was ready for answers. And if he wouldn't give them to me directly, I'd find another way to hear them. Asterisk as I stared into the dark. One thought pulsed through me like a drumbeat. Asterisk she came for my husband. But now, I was coming for the truth. Asterisk, asterisk. Asterisk morning arrived like it always does, silent, soft, and indifferent to the chaos of the night before. Asterisk Jason was still asleep when I slid out of bed, my movements careful, measured. He looked peaceful under the covers, as if the tension of last night hadn't settled in his bones the way it had in mine. I watched him for a second longer than usual, wondering who he really was when no one was watching. Wondering if even he knew. Asterisk downstairs. I made coffee I didn't intend to drink and stood at the window, staring at nothing. My reflection in the glass looked tired, not from lack of sleep, but from the weight of silent answers and almost confessions. Asterisk he came down 20 minutes later, slower than usual, uncertain in his steps. He didn't speak right away. He stood at the edge of the kitchen like a man walking into court. Asterisk Claire, he began. Asterisk I kept my eyes on the window. You didn't stop her right away. Asterisk there was a pause. He didn't deny it. Asterisk no. He saw it quietly. I didn't. Asterisk I turned to face him, my voice calm, precise. Why? Asterisk his lips parted, but it took him several seconds to find words. Because I didn't know how to. She was bold. She caught me off guard. I froze. I didn't want her, Claire. But I didn't push her away fast enough either. And that. He exhaled sharply. That's on me. Asterisk he stepped closer. The air between us still heavy with the night's unspoken tension. Asterisk I never crossed a line, he said. But I'll admit, I didn't defend it as quickly or clearly as I should have. Asterisk I nodded, slowly. You liked the attention. Asterisk he blinked. Once? Yeah, maybe I did. It felt flattering. Someone looking at me like that again. But it wasn't real, and it wasn't worth risking you. Asterisk there it was. The honesty I'd been digging for. Asterisk I saw everything, Jason. I said softly. I watched it unfold. Every word, every move. I wanted to see what you do when you thought I wasn't paying attention. Asterisk he didn't ask how I knew. He didn't need to. Asterisk the next day. I messaged Megan. Asterisk I didn't rage. I didn't accuse. I simply asked her to meet me for coffee. Her reply came within seconds. Asterisk sure. Asterisk still smug. Still thinking she'd won. Asterisk we met at a quiet little cafe 2 neighborhoods over. Public enough to stay civil. Private enough to be real. Asterisk she arrived dressed like a woman stepping into a victory lap. Flawless makeup. Expensive heels. A confidence so practiced it had hardened into arrogance. Asterisk Claire, she said, smiling. This is unexpected. Asterisk I smiled back. Not really. Asterisk she ordered a latte. I ordered nothing. I wasn't here to sip. I was here to speak. Asterisk I saw what you did. I began, cutting through the small talk like a knife. Every look, every whisper, every calculated pause. I watched you test him, inch by inch. Asterisk her smile twitched. You're being dramatic. Asterisk no, I replied, leaning forward. I'm being generous. Asterisk she opened her mouth, but I continued. Asterisk I recorded you. I said, pulling out my phone. Just for a moment, just enough to remember the exact tone in your voice when you said, if you ever get bored of her, you know where I live. Asterisk her face paled. Asterisk, I didn't press play. I didn't need to. The knowledge that I had it was enough. Asterisk, I didn't come here to scream. I said, I came to end this. You're done showing up. You're done texting him. You're done trying to slither into what I built. Asterisk, Megan scoffed, but her posture faltered. You think you can control what he wants? Asterisk, no. I said, standing. But I can control who I allow near us, and you. You're not welcome. Asterisk, I left before she could fire back. There was nothing more to say. Asterisk, back home, I sat in the silence of our living room and stared at the life. Jason and I had constructed photo frames, shared furniture, birthday cards still magneted to the fridge. Asterisk, I didn't hate him. That would have been easier, cleaner. But what I felt was messier, disappointment. Not in what he did, but in what he didn't do. Asterisk, later that night, we sat across from each other, the silence stretching longer than any argument ever could. Asterisk, I didn't tell her to stop soon enough, Jason said, but I didn't want her. I didn't kiss her. I didn't betray you physically, but maybe. Emotionally, I failed. Asterisk, I met his eyes. Yes, you did. You didn't cheat. But you didn't protect us either. Asterisk, he nodded, swallowing hard. What do you want to do now? Asterisk, that was the question. Was this fixable? Could trust be rebuilt from half-truths and passive hesitations? Asterisk, I don't know yet. I answered honestly, but I know I need space. And I need you to stop trying to fix it with promises. I need action, boundaries, truth. Asterisk, I'll do anything, he said, voice cracking. Asterisk, I know, I said. And maybe that's the problem. You'll do anything now. Because you almost didn't do the right thing then? Asterisk, we slept in the same bed, but our backs were to each other. Not angry, just unsure. Still deciding. Asterisk, the next few weeks were quiet, tense, but not broken. We started therapy separately, then together. I didn't tell anyone what happened. Not even Ashley. Some things you need to hold in your hands before you let others weigh them. Asterisk, we rebuilt slowly. Not because we forgot, but because we remembered what almost happened. Asterisk, months later, Jason deleted all old numbers, cut ties, and offered transparency without me asking. He started asking more about my days, started noticing again. Started choosing me loudly, asterisk, and me, I stopped watching from the hallway. I started speaking up, asterisk, because the truth is, betrayal doesn't always start in hotel rooms or with lipstick on collars. Sometimes it starts in silence, in hesitation, in the eyes of someone who doesn't look away fast enough. Asterisk, I let her come over. I watched her try, asterisk, but I didn't let her win. Asterisk, because knowing the truth, even the ugly parts, gave me back the power I didn't know I'd lost. Asterisk, and in the end, I didn't burn the house down. Asterisk, I rebuilt the foundation. Asterisk, but this time, I made sure the locks were changed. Asterisk, asterisk.